Welcome to Crime Story with Camila, where we dive deep into the most chilling and mysterious true crime cases. If you love real-life crime stories, make sure to like, subscribe, and share so you never miss an update. Your support helps us bring you the most in-depth investigations and untold stories. The murder of Hardeep Singh Nijjar, a prominent Sikh activist, has ignited a major diplomatic crisis between Canada and India. What began as a targeted killing outside a Sikh temple in Surrey has now spiraled into a full-blown international dispute, with accusations of foreign interference, intelligence operations, and escalating tensions. In this video, we dive deep into the assassination, the political fallout, and what this means for global diplomacy. Stay tuned as we uncover the shocking details behind this high-stakes international conflict. Hardeep Singh Nijjar was a Canadian citizen and a well-known advocate for the Khalistan movement, which seeks to establish an independent Sikh homeland separate from India. Born in India, Nijjar later moved to Canada, where he became an influential figure within the Sikh community. He served as the president of the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia, and was actively involved in organizing referendums and protests supporting Khalistan. The Indian government had long accused Nijjar of being involved in extremist activities, labeling him a terrorist and alleging his ties to banned separatist groups. However, Nijjar and his supporters denied these claims, asserting that his activism was peaceful and aimed at securing the rights of Sikhs. Despite these allegations, he remained a prominent figure in Canada's Sikh diaspora, advocating for self-determination and human rights. His assassination in June 2023 sent shockwaves through the Sikh community and triggered an intense diplomatic dispute between Canada and India, with both nations now embroiled in one of the most significant international confrontations in recent history. On June 18, 2023, Hardeep Singh Nijjar was gunned down outside the Guru Nanak Sikh Gurdwara in Surrey, British Columbia, the very temple where he served as president. Reports indicate that two masked assailants ambushed him in the temple's parking lot, firing multiple rounds before fleeing the scene. Nijjar was pronounced dead at the scene, leaving the Sikh community in shock and mourning. Initial investigations suggested that this was not a random act of violence, but a targeted execution. Witnesses described the attack as highly coordinated, with surveillance footage revealing the killer's precise movements before and after the shooting. While local law enforcement launched a homicide investigation, suspicions quickly arose about potential foreign involvement due to Nijjar's activism and the long-standing tensions between pro-Khalistan activists and the Indian government. As pressure mounted, Canadian intelligence agencies began probing potential links between the assassination and Indian government operatives. What followed was a diplomatic storm that would push Canada and India into one of their most serious international crises in decades. For months, authorities worked to track down those responsible for the attack. Then, in May 2024, Canadian police made a breakthrough, arresting 4 individuals in connection with Nijjar's murder. The suspects, all Indian nationals residing in Canada, were charged with first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit murder. The 4 arrested suspects are Hardeep Singh, 22, arrested May 11, 2024; Karan Brar, 22; Kamalpreet Singh, 22; Karanpreet Singh, 28. Authorities are still investigating potential links between the suspects and the Indian government, a claim that has been at the center of the diplomatic dispute between Canada and India. The arrests have further intensified tensions, with both countries expelling diplomats. While the investigation continues, the case remains one of the most high-profile political assassinations in Canada's history, with global implications for international relations and national security. 3 months after Hardeep Singh Nijjar's assassination, on September 18, 2023, Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau made a stunning revelation in Parliament. Canada's intelligence agencies had uncovered credible allegations linking Indian government agents to Nijjar's killing. Trudeau stated that Canada was actively investigating these claims and emphasized that any foreign involvement in the murder of a Canadian citizen on Canadian soil was a violation of Canada's sovereignty and unacceptable. The announcement sent shockwaves through international diplomatic circles. In an immediate response, Canada expelled a top Indian diplomat, identified as the head of India's intelligence operations in Canada. India reacted swiftly, calling the allegations absurd and motivated, dismissing them as politically driven. In retaliation, India expelled a senior Canadian diplomat and escalated the diplomatic standoff. As tensions escalated, India suspended visa services for Canadian citizens, citing security concerns for its diplomatic staff in Canada. Meanwhile, Canada's Sikh community held large protests, demanding accountability and justice for Nijjar's murder. The strained relations threatened trade talks and broader diplomatic cooperation between the two nations, with neither side backing down. The allegations also sparked international concern. The United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, Canada's allies in the Five Eyes Intelligence Alliance, called on India to cooperate with the investigation. The diplomatic rift continued to widen, pushing Canada-India relations to one of their lowest points in history. The arrests of the 4 suspects in May 2024 further strained diplomatic relations between Canada and India, pushing an already tense situation into a full-blown crisis. The allegations of Indian involvement had already led to the expulsion of diplomats from both countries, and with new developments in the case, both sides hardened their stances. In response to the initial allegations by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, India dismissed the claims as baseless and politically motivated, accusing Canada of harboring separatists and extremists. New Delhi then retaliated by suspending visa services for Canadian citizens, citing security concerns for Indian diplomats in Canada. As the investigation progressed, reports emerged that U.S. and Canadian intelligence agencies had intercepted communications suggesting potential links between Indian operatives and Nijjar's assassination. This revelation led to mounting pressure from Canada's allies, including the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, urging India to cooperate with the investigation. Despite diplomatic efforts to de-escalate, the crisis deepened when trade talks between Canada and India were put on hold, affecting economic relations. India continued to deny any state involvement, calling it an attempt to discredit the country internationally. Pro-Khalistan protests in Canada and other Western countries intensified, demanding justice for Nijjar and a deeper investigation into foreign interference. With both nations refusing to back down, the situation remains unresolved, making this one of the most serious diplomatic confrontations between Canada and India in recent history. The future of their bilateral relations now hinges on the findings of the ongoing investigation and how both countries choose to handle the fallout. The assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and the subsequent allegations against India sent shockwaves through the international community, drawing responses from several major global powers. Canada's Western allies, especially the United States, the United Kingdom, and Australia, expressed concern over the situation, urging India to cooperate with the investigation. The U.S. took a cautious but serious approach to the allegations. While initially avoiding direct accusations against India, Washington confirmed that it had shared intelligence with Canada regarding the assassination. The Biden administration called for transparency and urged India to fully cooperate with the ongoing investigation. However, given the U.S.'s strategic ties with India, particularly in countering China, Washington remained careful not to damage diplomatic relations with New Delhi. The UK, home to a large Sikh population, also reacted strongly to the case. British officials called for a thorough investigation and stressed the need for India to respect international norms. Sikh activists in the UK staged large protests outside Indian diplomatic missions, increasing tensions between the Sikh diaspora and Indian authorities. Like the US and the UK, Australia voiced concern over the potential foreign interference in Canada's affairs and called for a fair and independent probe. The Australian government emphasized the importance of national sovereignty and expressed support for Canada while maintaining diplomatic ties with India. India vehemently denied the allegations, calling them unsubstantiated and politically motivated. Indian officials accused Canada of sheltering separatist elements and interfering in India's internal affairs. India also warned Western nations against interfering in its security matters, framing the accusations as an attempt to undermine its global reputation. The United Nations called for a transparent and impartial investigation, urging both Canada and India to handle the matter diplomatically. Meanwhile, human rights organizations, including Amnesty International and Human Rights Watch, condemned the assassination and demanded a full inquiry into the involvement of state actors. The growing rift between Canada and India has wider geopolitical implications, as both countries are key players in international trade and security alliances. The assassination has put Western nations in a difficult position, as they seek to balance their commitments to democratic values while maintaining strong strategic and economic ties with India. As the case unfolds, the world watches closely to see whether diplomatic relations will recover or if this crisis will mark a permanent shift in Canada-India relations. The assassination of Hardeep Singh Nijjar and the subsequent allegations of Indian involvement have led to one of the most severe diplomatic crises between Canada and India in recent history. What was once a growing strategic partnership has now deteriorated into a state of deep distrust and hostility. In the wake of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau's public allegations, both Canada and India expelled senior diplomats. India suspended visa services for Canadian citizens, citing security concerns for its diplomats in Canada. Diplomatic negotiations, once focused on trade and cooperation, have now shifted toward damage control and mutual accusations. Trade negotiations between Canada and India were halted amid the tensions, delaying progress on a highly anticipated free trade agreement. India is Canada's 10th largest trading partner, with billions of dollars in annual trade. The fallout from this crisis could lead to long-term economic repercussions, particularly in sectors like agriculture, technology, and education. Canadian businesses with operations in India now face uncertainty, with fears that India may impose restrictions on Canadian investments. The crisis has deepened divisions within Canada, where a large Sikh diaspora has been vocal in calling for an independent Khalistan. Indian officials have accused Canada of harboring Sikh separatists, leading to a rise in pro-Khalistan protests and increased security concerns in both nations. Trudeau's handling of the crisis has faced criticism domestically, with opposition leaders questioning the lack of strong evidence presented publicly, while others argue that Canada must stand firm against foreign interference. Despite the current hostilities, both nations have long-term interests that may push them to seek a resolution. India remains a key geopolitical player, and Western nations, including Canada, are unlikely to risk a permanent rupture in relations. However, without a diplomatic breakthrough or conclusive evidence that resolves the case, Canada-India relations may remain strained for years to come. As both sides stand firm on their positions, the future of diplomatic, economic, and security ties between Canada and India remains uncertain. The ongoing investigation into Nijjar's murder will likely determine whether relations can be mended or if this event marks a permanent turning point in their history.
Thanks for watching. For more interesting videos, please subscribe.